Hey there, my name's Joan Gregerson. I'm here with Albert Kueffner, and we're talking about his project, Black+White Conversations from the Heart, as part of the 2020 International Climate Action Challenge. And Albert has actually 3 different projects that came out of the challenge, out of this basic idea of getting Black and white people to talk together and do stuff together. And hi, Albert, how are you?
Very fine. Thank you so much for interviewing me.
Albert, what was your main concern? What prompted you to do this, to focus on this out of all the different things that you could focus on? What was your main concern?
To have Blacks or whites and people of color and everything talking to each other, because what wasn't happening when George Floyd was killed, there was no conversation, there was no cooperation toward a common end, and there was no sign that wouldn't be another event that would be forgotten like all the rest of the murders.
One of your ideas in the beginning was maybe to have an annual day of memorial to remember George Floyd. And then you said, okay, this challenge is starting. Maybe I can just do something now. And so you actually had 3 different projects that came out of this. So can you touch on those briefly?
The first was to have Black and white congregations talking to each other on common themes: the desire for validation, the desire for a better life, a desire for a future of prosperity and things like that. And so that's what I first attempted at my church. A couple of my churches already doing that. I didn't know that until I presented the idea. This couple was talking to a Black couple who the husband was head of a congregation. And they said, we'll just expand our conversation to more people. And they did that. But it didn't go very far. They went to maybe 8 people on both sides.
So then you had another opportunity to bring this together. What was the second project that came through?
It was younger, elder co-housing. I was in a youth jam where you have eco-leaders, young eco-leaders from all over the country collaborating on next steps. And they asked me if my church's members, who were mostly elderly, had spare rooms because they couldn't afford market rate apartments in the Bay Area. So I presented that to my church, and they want to do it as soon as people get vaccinated, but they definitely are going this way. We found a house matching service that can do it. And then, of course, we have all the people graduate from these jams that want to do it. So it's a done deal. We just have to wait till the vaccination to happen.
I gotta say, this is brilliant. It really affirms your idea, which is when people start talking to each other, and you've got these young people that need a place to live that's affordable, where they can still spend time working on these social justice issues. And then you have this older, whiter, more affluent congregation that has more space and maybe has more needs to have somebody help them. It can be a really perfect match. And you can just only imagine them sitting at the kitchen table having some of these discussions, because your church is a very forward social justice thinking church, but to actually have the relationships where they're working in partnership as a team is beautiful.
And these are elder activists who will now be with multiracial activists who graduate from these jams.
So that's a really neat thing to come out of this. Okay, and then you said you had a third project.
Right. It was for Indigenous American practices for achieving flow.
Okay, so why do people need flow if you're working in this area?
I sent that paper to 2,500 people, and most of which were in the Pachamama Alliance, which was founded for fighting for Indigenous American rights. And
nice. You have a common theme that runs through, which is the dominant culture has these communication norms and other norms that have been hurtful to other people. So getting people to learn from maybe adopting more of what would you think of a Black conversation mode, rather than always having to go with the dominant cultures. And so also learning from Indigenous. So give us just the one example. You mentioned when we were talking earlier about how the powwow and the drum, and how this is a practice that is something that can bring us more in harmony. What is your idea around that?
Whenever there is a powwow amongst American Indian tribes, it always is brought into being by the beating of the drum. Because when you're beating this drum, everybody's getting in sync with everybody else. It's a call to community, basically.
Yeah. Okay,
And
so
it's,
cool.
yeah,
What I love about this is that he just took this one idea and is seeing it evolve and open up and manifest in all these different ways. So you're still holding on to your main idea, but you're open to how that may play out. So Albert, with the challenge itself, what do you think was most helpful, if anything, of all the different parts and pieces that were part of the challenge, the book, the workbook, the check-ins, the mentoring? We had lots of different parts there, and you were
yeah,
very active in there.
right. The breakout rooms were very important because that's where we actually got to apply to our project and get input from other people in all of your trainings. That was very helpful.
Yeah, during our
Weekly trainings, yeah. And we got credit for sending in pictures with our weekly reports. And I found that was the best thing for organizing my own thinking, because one of my ways of getting into flow is to do visualizations. Well, you had that happen for every week. So it just was a proof of concept for my flow paper. And that was very helpful. But it was the weekly reporting with people, with visualization, and files of any papers we wrote.
You did all the writing assignments and were diligent. Yeah, it's funny because you realize, oh, this is why schools set this stuff up, giving you an assignment and having you check in, is because it actually works to help you make progress. Albert, what would be your advice for somebody that has an idea and they're not really sure where to start or what to do? What would be your advice to them? What would you recommend?
Mine started because I was pissed off. I just was so tired of these killings and nothing coming of them. And because I couldn't believe it happened. Go there and see how bad it really is. Have that experience. It'll get you going.
So good. Doing
people
what?
Who are angry
should
get into action. People who are angry go into action. Go to where the bad things are happening, or attend a meeting in that community where they're trying to grapple with that, and start talking to people in those meetings and getting a conversation going. It can be a painful process, but a very educational and eventually stimulating and inspiring way to get into something. Until you feel it on your skin, you're not going to get going on it. Until you have a relationship, empathy with one other person that agrees with you that, hey, we have to do something about this.
Your example really shows that you took a kernel of an idea and just kept putting it out there.
Yeah.
And it's like you planted seeds and they're popping up different places in different forms. And it's a really good testament that just put your idea out there and keep pushing, and you never know how it may turn out. All right. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, Albert, for taking time for all the cool stuff that you've done and gotten going, and for taking time to tell us about it. Anybody else wants to get their idea going from passion to action, then head over to climateactionchallenge.net, grab the book, the workbook, and see the stories of everybody else that made an impact in 90 days. All right. Thanks, Albert. Okay. Bye.